Dota is ruining my life.
Don't say that. That's not a good sell
No,
at the start here.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I say. Careful, man. Gaben's watching.
I know. No, it's just I need a little bit more discipline. I just have too much fun. I end up playing till late.
Yeah.
Sometimes my stream's only till 2 in the morning, and next I play till like 5 in the morning, and I'm just like, this is not good. I was like, one more game. I was like,
What's the
it's
worst
just,
that could happen? Come on.
yeah, dude.
Banana slam jam.
We're good to go. So it's been a while. How you were
Coach
asking me how I've been?
V!
Yeah, welcome back, everybody watching. We got Eri here again with me.
Yo.
You said Dota's ruining your life because you're playing it too much. So what's been your story
Yeah.
since we last were on the
Well,
screen together?
I think it's been a bit of a grind. And I've honestly, what I've learned recently, and honestly, grinding as a 5 coach, it's hard.
I believe
Like
it.
grinding as a 5 solo queue, it's just there are those moments where I kind of recognize I've done all that I could, but my carry decided to just YOLO mid, and there's nothing I can do about that. It's just I s- I usually play. I kind of didn't follow your advice in regards to playing with Archon Legends, but I usually play with Legends on my stream.
Okay.
But kind of committing to that, I think it kind of helped me a little bit in regards to seeing the difference. Like when I play solo queue with Guardians around people around my bracket, it's more of like I can see the difference in decision making, and target priority in regards to fights. But I think maybe I have to play solo queue a lot longer to maybe see the difference. But what I see now, in regards to what I've learned from you, I have been applying the dead lane concept. I do that when I could. I think I trade more now in lane. Um, I go for denies more. I do definitely a lot more pulling. I also understand when to pull properly and when I should be on lane and harass. That is something I understand. I've understood the team fight dynamics a lot more. I think farming sometimes is something I forget. Farming while doing all the objectives I could. I think that's something that needs working on. It's not something I consistently do. But understanding Dota now, man, it requires you to be on all the time.
It
It
does.
takes so much focus.
It does.
I realize how much you have to be on. When you play a good game, the how much you're just on and looking at everything and making your actions and decisions efficient every minute or every 30 seconds even of the game requires so much for you to be on. And I'm learning all these details and little micro decisions more, and I'm understanding what is more efficient and what isn't slowly, for my level. But it's all these micro decisions, coach. It's a game that takes a lot out of you, but honestly having a lot more fun. And CM's my best hero. I have a 60% win rate on her right now,
Nice.
which is pretty good. According just playing like straight. And one thing I definitely want to ask from you is, well, you can have a look at. Oh, I have 2 games. You can quickly skim over one game, and I have an alt game that I wanted to ask you specifically for one thing. I
You were
remember.
playing Alk, or you
Oh
wanted?
no. We were playing against Alk.
Okay.
We didn't contest him, but it's more of when you're defending Throne,
Yeah.
right? And let's say, or you're defending Rax. I'm still at a place where I don't understand where when you should go out of your base to try to make something happen, or when you should turtle
Okay.
and basically just stay on base. I think sometimes, the intimidation of like we gotta defend Rax, you know what I mean? Just go high ground. Or when is a good situation and circumstance when you can go out of base and start making stuff happen? What is the efficient thing to do after you've successfully, let's say, defended it once. Because what happened is, with the Alk game, they would take us out, maybe, and then we would buy back, or they would take us out and then we would kill them again. We obviously could kill them again, but they were in a slight advantage. But it was to the point where that just kept happening until they eventually won the game. And what I felt was like, man, maybe we need to go out of the base to try to make something happen. Maybe smoke gank a lane when we have vision of them, or one of them, just to try to make something happen. But I don't know when that is a healthy decision to do or when not.
Okay.
Oh, and last thing, coach, that I've learned recently is I'm starting to understand team fight dynamics a little bit more. I'm understanding that based on team fight, there is the most optimal thing I can do based on um a fight. Basically, if I do this, let's say if I can stun, I don't know, if I can kite storm spirit, then, and maybe get him stunned, then that's a good thing, because there's certain fights where there's the best thing to do, like, because of how the matchups go. It's like, this is the only way this could happen for us to win that team fight, because that's how the draft is. So I'm kind of like understanding a little bit of team fight dynamics. Let's say if we went straight for the Alk, we would lose. We'd have to get this and this. We'd have to get their biggest damage dealer. So these are the kind of thing. These are the things that I realized more. I've also did like an hour replay analysis, like just a few weeks ago, and actually just this week, about kiting the BKBs. That's what that's something I understand as well. There's a point where you gotta let the BKB run out before you kind of go back in.
Yeah.
So if we can trigger the BKBs and basically reinitiate once that happens, um that is one thing to do as well. And playing around our ults as well is something I've learned.
Okay.
So
So
those are the things that I've learned since we stopped. I think it's been like 3 months,
it's
coach. I
been a
don't know how
little
long.
while. I think it was like around June, late June or so. So yeah, it's definitely been
Yeah.
a while. And I think, it's not like nobody cares about what you just said at all. But I think the one thing they really want to hear is what, positive or negative, no matter what's your MMR looking like in compared to when we did it.
Dude, I was so close. It was honestly an up and down. I think what happened was, I was, I think, about 100 MMR away from Crusader, and you know what happens, coach? It's honestly something that I have to kind of develop. When I get close to that rank, I kind of think about it a little bit too much, and then it kind of affects my game.
Okay.
But so far I think I am about 300 MMR away from Crusader.
So like, what were
But
you like exact number before, and what are you now? It's hard for me to know the badges.
I think I am Guardian 4 now. And I went all the way down. I went all the way down to 700 MMR.
Yikes.
Yeah, dude. I had
Yikes.
this really horrible losing streak, but I went all the way down to 700.
Okay.
That's
Those
it was
Guardian
bad.
4, is that like 1,300, 1,200, 1,000? I don't actually
This is
know.
about, I would say it's about 1100. I was about 1300 last week,
Okay.
and then I kind of went through a bit of a, there's just games where it just didn't work out.
Okay.
And so honestly, I'm consistently at this place now. I've definitely learned from that losing streak of 700, but no, coach, I haven't hit Crusader yet, man.
Okay.
I haven't
Okay.
hit
So we
Crusader.
gotta get you there, man. So, I wasn't
Definitely,
sure. I
definitely.
think, I think with you, it's hard to know exactly because everyone's different. But I've seen people
Yeah.
who, they get stuck at the same MMR for a while and suddenly something clicks. I think you were learning a lot in the meantime. So
Mm,
now I am almost curious if I watch your game to know if I see a lot of basics not being done because I taught you very advanced concepts to apply at your bracket. Like, I think they're advanced concepts that anybody can kind of wrap their head around, but a lot of people,
yeah.
at your bracket especially, don't even hear about them. They don't even know they exist. So
Yes.
I'm curious to
Yeah.
see how much that's affected the rest of your game. So I'm ready to go ahead and pull up a
Yes.
replay and
Here, I'm gonna
see.
send something over.
Yeah, so
But
that's,
you
you
know
said
what?
you had two and you had one where you wanted me to just see the end of the game with the elk or what?
Yes, the one is just the end of the game with the elk. Wait, how do I send this over to you? Let me
Just
send it over.
copy
Discord.
paste
Here you go.
the game
Here you go.
ID.
There you
Yep,
go,
there
sir.
you go.
There
Perfect.
you go, sir. But because of what you taught me, coach, things kind of
You must
click a
have
lot
misclicked
easier.
that, by the way. It must be missing a number.
It is missing a number. Okay, wait. Let me just get Dota here really quick, and let me just.
Oh, it's just a completely
Yeah,
different game. What is that other one?
I have
Not a
no
single
idea
number is the
what I.
same.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah,
I
look
probably
at the two
copied.
you copy pasted. There's not a single digit in there that's the
I'm
same.
sorry.
That's
I probably
you
copied
probably
both.
typed that one like in your sleep. You were busy typing it and just
Yeah,
didn't
this
realize
is the
you're.
other game. It was 4 in the morning. It was 4 in the morning. So okay.
Yeah, that's just funny.
Okay, wait. This is wait, sorry, coach. Something's weird with my Dota. That's one game, and this is let me just copy this one. Hello chat, it's been a while. I hope you guys are well. And that's the other one. Yeah, I play Maiden here. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Please ignore the first blood. That was my bad. Um,
We'll check it
but
out. We're all gonna, point and laugh at you real quick. But go ahead.
yes, please go for it. Go for it. I will
30
take it.
seconds to battle.
It's in the bag.
So my question is, what do you think is like the number one thing you did wrong here?
Oh, I went down.
But like, what about you going down is so wrong here?
There were 3 people, and I should have just went back.
So it's mostly that your positioning has to be really careful, and I think as a support, it's not necessarily that I want to tell you a specific position, but in lane and like at the rune, who should always be in front, you or Void?
It was definitely Void.
Yeah, so your positioning needs to be not in front of Void, right? See that? So it's like
Yes, I
you can
agree.
walk up
So that
slower, be a little more cautious about it. It's like sometimes as support though, it's your job to run out in front. I don't think any of the heroes we really practiced together were those type of heroes. But if you're like an Undying or an Ogre, it's your job to be in front. So I would mostly say like really try to keep in mind if it's you or your carry that's supposed to be in front when it comes to like in lane in the runes, and that's my biggest issue there. But I understand you're bad.
No, that was my bad. I got excited because I thought the I had an ogre that was getting too excited and we could kill him because he went up, and I was just like, oh, what is this ogre doing? And then just a few seconds after, I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I'm dying. That was my mistake.
Let me rewind this here. What are you thinking right now? Like, what's going through your head while you're sitting in base like this? Like, why did you wait till 33 seconds to TP?
I think at this point, I don't know if I was doing something off stream that I had to handle, but I don't quite remember.
I will say, if you want to get better at Dota, we talked about, you said, like, I should watch these replays and stuff. I highly recommend that you go into a game, because I have the same issue as, like, a content creator, streamer. Nothing's allowed to be done. That's not in the Dota game.
Yeah.
It actually has to be something, like, I have lost so many drafts because I'm, like, focused on some other crap during the middle of the draft, and I pick a bad hero for the game. And it applies the same thing in the game. So if that is the case, either way, if it's not... If you want to like actively get better, like you said, it really, sadly, you just can't not think for even 20 seconds, even at 10 seconds into the game. You just can't. Because my question for you would be, I'm looking at your player perspective and your TPing, right? Why do I have an issue with this? TP.
Why do you have an with this TP?
Yeah. You didn't even look at the lane before you TP'd.
Oh, I thought. Wait, did I look at all lanes or my lane?
Your lane.
My specific.
Yeah, your lane. You didn't even look at it. Did you see that? Like you didn't even look. Do you know why you would want to look? You know why it would matter to look? Like you're going there, right? Like you're gonna go to the lane. So why would it matter to look or not?
Why would it matter to look or not? Well, the creeps are pushed. One, ogres there, things there. judging from what you're asking me now, it's either maybe the position of where I'm TPing at. Maybe if I TP'd a little bit before tower and went around, or maybe I didn't need to waste a TP and I could just have walked there based on
So I'm going to tell you right now, and because you know I mean this in the most genuine way, and I know
Please,
you couldn't even do this if you tried. This was the perfectly terrible TP I've ever seen. So the reason, well, there's reasons why. So first and foremost, why as a support have I talked about, like why? What's the negative of being in lane, right? It's taking your carry's XP. So when it comes to like pulling camps and all that kind of stuff, the goal is to be outside of the lane as often as possible when your carry doesn't need you, right?
Yes.
So if you're with a void, so I'm actually curious since we've talked, if I could ask you the number one factor of you being a Crystal Maiden and this being a void, what would you say like your number one role is in the first creep wave?
My number one role in the first creep wave.
Something you can do that void can't.
Something I can do that void can't for the first creep wave?
Yeah, it's always, this is like a first creep wave. I mean, it matters later too, but you have to establish this by the first creep wave.
The creep wave, our creep wave, the enemy's creep wave, right?
Well, I'm saying like they meet each other, the lane starts. What is your like job in this lane?
What is my job in this lane as a void?
It'll often be your job with CM, but it's especially because your carry's a void. What?
Nuking and harassing the
what? Nuking specifically what?
Nuking. Let me think here. As much as I can, if I can nuke and harass Abba, that would be great.
Okay. So this is one of the fundamental. This is like a fundamental that you obviously need to write down. I think we mentioned it. I guess it didn't get highlighted enough because this is something from now on you should never do again as Crystal Maiden. This is the number one job as Crystal Maiden. You nuke that range creep. That range creep gets secured. If your void is not actively hitting the enemy range creep, meaning like, you know, it's getting contested, you are taking it. You're preventing it from getting denied. That is your job. And the reason why I mentioned void is if you have like a PA or, you know, some carry with a nuke that can reliably get the range creep, right? Then it's not your job. But if you're, or you don't have to do that. But as a support, you have to consider every lane whether or not who's getting the range creep. And the reason why I mentioned the range creep is it just behaves differently than melee creeps. Because like if you look at the way this lane plays out, I'm just gonna free camera for you. This happens a lot, right? Here, this dynamic here happens a lot. So see how these creeps get treated differently. It's not because the range creep, like I'm only mentioning the range creep as different because the way what it takes to get them is just different. Like you see melee creeps, they're underneath tower, range creep.
Yes.
So like if you are securing the range creep, this is a great TP. Like this is the reason why you would TP here. But otherwise, does Void need your help for these three creeps right here?
Nope. No.
Then you are either securing the range creep to help him, or you're just soaking XP for no reason.
Soaking XP for no reason, yeah.
Right? So it's like, the reason why I say it's a perfectly bad TP is because you TP at the second too late to get this range creep secured, like you don't get it, and you're soaking all three creeps from the Void. So that's why it's like, my point would be you either TP so early that you get there in time to nuke the range, or you just let your Void have solo XP. And you can still TP if you want. Like, I'm saying, I'm not even arguing whether or not you walk or TP. Yeah. But I think understanding that when the lane's near your first tower, this is actually a big deal because your Void would just casually get level 2, and then, you know, you TP in after, and now your Void's 1v2, or like he's level 2 and both of the opponents are level 1, and you're like, nice, sweet, you know? It's a small thing, but it adds up so much as a carry, right?
Coach, I think there's an opportunity to ask a good question here.
Go ahead.
I mean, for my level, for people at my level or here, why is it so important to get the range creep? I know it's worth more experience, but what is the bigger picture of it all? Like,
it's worth 25% of the creep wave.
It worth 20. That's it.
It's a creep. There's 4 creeps in a creep wave, and we want to get all 4. Yeah. It's actually not that complicated. Like, it used to be, like, I don't want you to overthink it. It used to be drastic. Yeah. Range creeps used to give, like, double the experience and, like, way more gold than melee creeps. It's pretty close now. Okay. They give like
Okay.
15% more or something like that on
Okay.
both. So I treat it like it's another creep. And reason why I was telling you like
Yeah.
this creep just behaves differently. So we have to
Yeah.
treat it differently, right?
Okay.
Like when like you saw how both heroes dragged creeps away from each other, right? Like that's what happened. Void dragged
Yeah.
creeps and the Abaddon dragged creeps. What happens is
Yes.
both range creeps die, and Void's underneath his tower CSing, and he's also got no way to reliably get the range creep. So it's positioning in lane, right? The range creep for both teams, your range creep is closer to your tower than your melee creeps, and their
Yes.
range creep is farther away from your tower than their melee creeps, right? So it's like it puts you more out of position to get the range creep. It causes like unfavorable trades a lot of the time, like that kind of stuff.
And that's why my nuke. That's why my nuke is super important.
Yeah, that's
Like you
why
said,
like
go ahead.
okay, sorry, go ahead. What was your question?
If you have a PA, like you said, if it were a PA, then he can just dagger that range creep, and my nuke wouldn't be as significant
So
in
the
this exchange.
absolutely it would not be as significant, but the way I want you to think about it is with heroes with nukes, that any hero with an instant nuke, it's so important to think like this because I have a question for you. If you're helping your carry secure the range, meaning like say you walk up and threaten the nuke, right? You threaten the nuke and your carry's walking up to get the range, and the opponent tries to deny it. What do you do?
I I, I nuke it. I
You
secure
nuke
the
it,
range.
and you nuke not
I-
only the creep but also the opponent.
That's true, and I
So
secure experience for us.
you're securing experience, like the gold's going to you rather than nobody, and then you're nuking the opponent too. So it's like, you're getting 2 for 1. And if you walk up to secure this range creep and the Abaddon just backs off, what do you do?
If I and the
Like
I
I'm
take
saying,
the
you're
range.
threatening your nuke. The Abaddon's like could go for the deny, but instead of tanking your nuke, he backs off.
I still go for the range creep.
You let your carry have it.
Oh, I let my carry.
You
have
see what I'm saying? So like you're escorting him to the range creep. You're like, okay, here, man, it's safe for you now. If they contest it, I'll nuke it for you. If they don't, it's yours. Obviously, if the carry's like sitting back and not taking the range creep, just take it. The point
Yes.
is you want the opponent to be forced to make that decision, and this should happen every lane as Crystal Maiden. Like I'm telling you, in 100 games of CM, your goal should have 0 range creeps that are not at least considered to be nuked by you. Like you should be considering it on every single range creep. It is so important.
I got it.
So yeah,
I got
that
it.
it's such a
Okay.
small thing, but if I can tell you either do it or you don't, right? Like that's how
Yes.
I look
No,
at
no,
these
that's-
types of things, right?
I think I had a very conservative perspective in regards to my job as a support. In regards to creeps, I'm like, okay, it's my core who's gonna try to get that. But you shouldn't try to get his last hits. But when you shift the perspective that way, I'm just like, okay,
You want him to take it ideally, but if he's not going to get it,
Yes.
you got to make sure
yes,
somebody
but
gets it.
It's the second best thing for me to nuke it as opposed to them being able to deny it.
Absolutely. So let me see here. So Eri, I'm going to call you out, buddy. So
Okay,
the
go
first
for
thing
it.
you told me was, BSJ, I know exactly when to pull and exactly when to trade and all that kind of stuff. So this was a first
Yeah.
example on the range creep. That's not a good example of showing me you know how to trade, because the range creep's one of the number one indications of when to trade. So second off, like we're calling you out in a
Please,
very
please, no, I
very polite
appreciate
way
it,
here.
yes.
And then
Indeed.
my question would be, how many times have you supported Void this patch? Like,
Good
as any
amount of time.
what?
A good amount of time.
Yeah, he's pretty popular, right? So it's really important as a support. We talked about how like every carry is different, right? We did talk a bit about itemization, where maybe you'd go like a buckler or something, and
Yes,
for
yes.
certain heroes. But
Yes.
now it's time to start thinking about the hero you're supporting in regards to what they do for you and do for the lane.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what how do I do this? I want you to think about the mindset more than just Void, right? So it's like with Void specifically, I'm going to lay it out for you, and I want you to ask questions because I don't know how to lead a question into this. Void hates having a 2v2 lane. His hero is sustained with Time Walk, and then he bashes people. So he wants a 1v1 as often as possible. There's just no benefit in his toolkit to being against 2 heroes. Like, it just doesn't
Yes.
benefit him at all. So we want to leave the void alone as often as humanly possible. Like we want to be as far away from him, taking as little creeps as possible, but he can't secure range. So the one reason we would come to lane is to help him secure range. But then he's also very independent. Some carries require being protected, while Void, as long as he has Time Walk, is almost unkillable, right? So my question would be is, if I talk to you about this independent hero, and I talk to you about how he doesn't want a 1v1, or he wants a 1v1, excuse me, he doesn't want 2v2s, and the lane pushes out right now at 47 seconds, what's your course of action be?
I should definitely pull. I should pull the long camp if I could.
Either camp, like you should pull either camp, right? It doesn't matter which one. And if you were to step back into lane, why? Why would you step back into lane?
To secure range.
Exactly, and that's it. Otherwise, you are not in this lane. You're not in this lane. You don't exist in this lane. You do nothing. Like you actually just do nothing. Like it's so funny because there's like a bajillion factors, right, in lanes. So the goal as you get better is there's a bajillion factors. Every lane, usually like 3 or 4 of them matter. Like and so once you know the 3 or 4 in every single matchup, laning's like a piece of cake. It's like and that's the hard part though, right? Like I'm not saying that's easy.
I want to hear these 3 or 4. Okay.
Well, yeah. So in this lane specifically, it's the 1v1 dynamic that Void craves, and it's the securing range. Like that's pretty much it. Like in this lane specifically, it's just those two, because you're against very heavy sustain heroes, Abaddon and Ogre, very tanky, right? You're not gonna wear them down with your nuke alone. Like your nuke is not gonna be enough. Yeah, it's important that you hit them with it, but it's not enough, right? So if your nuke alone's not enough, then the way you're ever gonna kill them is your Faceless Void. So you need him to hit them like 30 times. Like that's a lot.
Even that was hard. It was a big ass.
Yeah, exactly, right? So these are beefy heroes. So the only way is to get Void a lot of items and a lot of levels, because his bash scales, and you alone are not gonna. If they're like ranged, squishies, like Rubik's and maybe the offlaners like a Puck, maybe your nuke will actually wear them down. Like they can't tank it. But this is a heavy sustain lane between Ogre and Abaddon. They're very tanky. So your nuke overall is more so of an annoyance rather than a lane-winning ability. So all these things combined, I know it's rough. At the end of the day, if the lane's pushing, we talked about this, always consider pulling, right? Always consider. And it would have been amazing here if you give him level 2. Go ahead.
Even in the first minute.
Even in the first minute. Every opportunity you have to pull, right? At a minute 15 is your first one, right? That's going to be the first opportunity you have every game, is a minute 15.
Yeah.
It has to be considered. So the thing we are hashing on last time around is that these are always considerations. Do I pull at 115? That is a decision I have to consciously make every single game, right? Well, what I'm saying is 115 is the first one. You technically then have to make the decision at 145, 215, 245, right? So you're absolutely right there. So, like right here, if you had given him level 2 by himself and then given just pulled right now, it would be awesome. Because I want you to look at this lane, right? And all that's happening is the Abaddon's clicking the Void a little bit. He's dragging aggro to himself. He's playing a bit defensive. And he time walks away. And I don't know if you feel it, but you look pretty useless. Like, do you feel it? And it's not because you're bad. It's because you just shouldn't be here. You're not, like, misclicking spells. Your positioning isn't bad. You just... What are you going to do? Click the Ogre for 4 damage?
Because what you're basically saying is there's really no opportunity to kill them, and it's not like Void needs to be babysat.
Yes.
I should just let my core get as much experience as he could.
Absolutely.
Which is my job as a support, my number 1 job anyway. If my core gets fat, then you're being useful as a support.
Yes, absolutely. Right? His game always comes first. I asked an interview question to Puppy, and I said, how do you always get so much farm on 5? And he says, I secure my cores their game, and I always secure their game, and then they're super strong coming out of the lane, and then they let me have my me time. Like that's what he said. That was his exact response.
They
What?
let me. I love it. I
Yeah,
love
but
it.
he said like the only reason he gets his meat time is because his cores have a good start. That's the like you don't get meat time because if your cores have a bad start. That's just how it is as support.
That's true. You get
So
me time. I get it.
so
You get me
the beauty of laning is how simplistic yet most people do. It's so hard to consistently keep these rules to yourself and make sure they never happen. But what's your
Yes.
opinion on this big camp right here? Like them pulling the enemy wave to this big camp. Is that good or
Them-
bad that they pull the enemy wave to this big camp?
They
It's
pull the-
right. It's right here.
Okay.
That ogre pulls and does this.
Pulling. Oh, and he gets R. Let me think. Well, it makes it easier for Void to secure it without being contested. Okay, let me try to think about this. But they get all their creeps without us being able to deny. But it's all the way there now. I would say, okay, wait. They're not contesting us, so he can get more farm. But that's all the way there. But our creep wave's all the way there. I would say it's more of the range creep is there. Okay.
Yeah, he pulled all 4 of his creeps.
Up there. Well, in regards to pushing the lane being all the way up, it's a bad thing for us because the creeps are all the way up there. So after he gets all of this here, they will get more creeps on the next wave because our creeps are all the way up there.
Okay.
So in regards to the grand scheme of everything, yes, he gets an easier time getting these creeps, but because our creeps are all the way up there, they will get the next creep wave easily because it's closer to them.
Okay. So my question would be: you established it's good for the opponent. If 1
Yes.
means it's amazing for your team and 10 means it's amazing for their team, where would you put it on that scale?
I would put it at an 8.
It's a 10.
There. It's a 10.
Lane
Okay.
losing.
Okay.
Lane losing.
Huh?
I want you
Lane
to I
losing?
want you to understand this is lane losing in the first minute or
Lane
two.
losing?
Lane losing. Okay.
Okay, coach.
So I'm telling you, this lane, and I'm not exaggerating this. At the highest bracket, the lane is over the second this happens, and I know it as a carry. Lane's over. So what happens is the Abaddon. What happens here is this: the Abaddon is supposed to tank this creep wave outside a tower. He's supposed to keep it so it's right here, doesn't go into his tower.
Yes.
This creep wave runs into this. So then Ogre's up here, contesting you two or whatever. And all the Ogre has to do is prevent you from pulling this creep wave
Yes.
on either of these camps. And the lane is going to permanently be here.
Mm,
Do you see how the lane will permanently be here as long as this guy tanks it outside of tower and Ogre just doesn't let you pull? Like imagine because if the lane's out here, the only way you're getting it back is if you pull, right? Like that's the only way you're going to fix it.
Yes.
And since the lane is so close to their tower, Ogre can contest your pull without the Abaddon needing his help. Similar to how the Void doesn't need your help right here, right?
Yes.
Do you see this?
I get it. Yes.
So
yes, I see.
in your bracket though, if this happens and he pulls it into tower and you're allowed to pull the camp, it's okay. Like you'll be able to salvage it. But like in my bracket, they wouldn't allow that. Like this guy would just walk over here and stand in front of you. You know what I'm saying? Like this Ogre would spend his entire time walking between here and here and just not let you pull. That's what he would do while the Abaddon's just farming. So my point is that, I talked about the urgency of pulling at 115. I know we haven't gotten very far. So the urgency of pulling at 115 is even less urgent than never letting the opponent pull the large camp. So the beauty of why you're pulling... So, okay. If the lane... Let me go back to 115. So, first and foremost, you're always trying to pull the small camp as often as you can. That's like...
Yes.
That's a given. If you can't, that's fine. Whatever. And on top of that, you never want them to pull the large camp. Like, it's just never good. It's never good.
Okay.
I'm not even going to say, like, hey, there's going to be that 3% of exceptions where you'll figure it out eventually. There are none. Like, there are not exceptions. So, my point being here is if the lane is pushing like this, why do you not have to worry about the big camp? If the lane is out here. Why do you personally, as a 5 position, not have to worry about this big camp?
If the lane is pushed all the way there, why do I not have to worry about the big camp?
Well, yeah, why do you not have to worry?
Well, the only reason I'd worry... Oh, because they can't pull over there.
Yeah, and the void's already here, right?
Yeah.
The void's already right here.
Yes.
You see that, right? So the beauty of a support is if the core can do it for you, you don't have to do it.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you know, because the lane's right here, void's gonna be over here. So he's kind of like protecting this for you. Like, if the lane's right here and void's right here and he just lets them pull, I mean, you can't. What are you gonna do? Yeah, it's like, oh, you know, maybe my core just doesn't know what he's doing. But with the lane being back at your tower, so like, say the lane is still right here, right? If your void is playing the lane normally, he's also going to be right here.
Yes.
So in that case, what is your only concern if the lane's near your tower?
The range creep.
The big camp.
Oh, okay.
So here's how it works. I'll show you real quick. The range creep is a concern, so I should have worded that differently. Two concerns. You are correct. You gave a correct answer, but it wasn't the one I was looking for.
Okay.
So when the lane is near your tower like this,
get to pull it. I get it. Okay.
So right here,
yes,
your only 2 things that matter right now are securing range and not letting Ogre pull big camp.
Which is what he's doing now.
Those are the only 2 things, actually. It's really cool, though. This will be in almost every lane you play, with CM specifically. With CM specifically, your only concern will be not letting them pull and securing the range. So your positioning just has to be as close to both as possible.
Yeah, more
and I would say it's more important that you don't let them pull. So, like, if you had to choose one or the other, you know, choose the pulling.
More than the range creep.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's way more. I'm saying, like, at the highest bracket, the lane's over. Like, I'm not exaggerating this. I'm not exaggerating. The lane's over if this happens.
It's more important if you... It's more important. You know what happens to me, Coach? I'm not blaming this, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying as a way for you to establish it and just kind of reestablish it in my head. Because, I mean, we don't talk as much as we did before.
Yes.
So I have just been playing with a bunch of different players, and of course they give their advice as well, which I appreciate. They say Eri, when the creeps are here close to the tower, you don't need to pull.
Okay.
Dire's courier
Is that true?
has been killed.
When the creeps are there at the tower, it's not necessary to pull. You can either harass or... This is, again, I know they mean well. I just don't know if it's...
Okay.
I will go ultimately for your advice. But
so I told you... okay, no. So we've came to this conclusion right now. This is going to be 90% of lanes for you on Crystal Maiden. We'll simplify things because you said Crystal Maiden's your best hero. So we're going to apply specifically to Crystal Maiden on almost every lane you play. Based on what I've told you so far, what's the only 2 things that matter to you?
Range creep and prevent them from pulling.
Okay. So why would it be bad to pull when the lane's near your tower?
They are telling me... What they told me is... Okay, I'm following your logic, but what they're telling me is there's no need because the creeps are here.
But pulling gives you more creeps, so it's just purely efficient if you pull. Like, you're not soaking XP, like the guy's getting solo XP underneath his tower, and you're getting XP from small camp.
Creeps will always be there, yes.
So it's literally just beneficial at all times to pull. So it's greedy to pull. I want you to understand it's greedy, meaning you're giving your carry solo XP, and then you're farming a small camp. So
that's true.
It's greedy, right? You're getting more out of the lane. So
yes,
it's really important actually to think it's hard in Dota, but a lot of things that, like pulling is a perfect example. Pulling's greedy. It's something you want to do anytime you possibly can. So have I talked to you about this? I don't know. When I think about doing something greedy in the game of Dota 2, what stops me from doing it? Like, why would I not do it?
Nothing.
I'm worried about getting punished for my greed.
Okay. I'm worried about getting punished for my greed. Okay.
Because in Dota, if something's greedy, there has to be a way to punish it. Like, that's just the balance of Dota. It's actually a beautifully balanced game in that regard. If something is greedy, there's always a way to punish it. So, in the case of pulling the small camp, the way the opponent punishes you is by pulling this camp. That's how they punish you, because they're pulling a large camp, and your Void is stuck. Instead of farming underneath tower safely like he is here, he would be stuck like running up here and trying to farm where a support's like hitting him, and you're over here contesting. You see, like if both get pulled at the same time, you're over here not helping your carry, who's trying to outlast hit a big camp, and he's getting hit by a support a lot. You see that?
Okay.
So that's not good if you pull small and they pull large. Like, that's not good at the same time. So the only reason you would ever not pull small is to not let them pull large. Like, you're concerned about that. Those are your first and foremost two concerns in lane, is securing your range creep and not letting them pull the large. So the reason why it was so good at 1 minute into the game for you to immediately walk over here is because it's not possible for them to pull the large camp because your Void's right here. It's literally just not possible.
Yes,
so my question for you is, if you go for that pull at 115, do you know what the two circumstances that can happen are? There's only two orientations that happen here. Your Void's laning against Ogre and Abaddon, you're pulling at 115. What's the Ogre going to do?
The Ogre is either going to try to contest my pull.
Okay.
Or Ogre's not. He's gonna try to pull the big camp, but Void will be there. I would say as well, maybe they would try to go at the Void.
Yeah, absolutely. They just try to like bully the Void, right?
Yeah, bully the Void because it's not there.
Yes, but because you're pulling a small camp, in the meantime, what's happening? You're getting farm and XP over here, and you're denying like 2 creeps.
Yes.
So if your Void understands Dota, which obviously it's hard, but he shouldn't care about missing 1 creep because you're leaving him alone right here. Because in the meantime, you're denying 2 creeps over here and you're getting golden XP yourself. So what I'm saying is, if the lane's pushed out like this, the Ogre has 2 options. To stop you, which creates a 1v1, or to go on your Void, and then the lane's going to eventually be safe for the Void anyways. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you pulled. The lane is going to come back here in like 20 or 30 seconds. The lane is going to come back because you pulled.
Okay.
So you're like, okay, Void, I pull, like, what your best communication as support is, hey, Void, I pulled, like, be careful. The lane will come to tower. Like, if this is somebody you play with, if you can communicate with them.
I say that usually all the time.
Okay, great. That's the only thing you can do, and if the guy randomly feeds, it's kind of like, I'll tell you from a carry player's perspective, it's completely the carry's fault. Like, that's just how it is. He has to not be greedy.
I think I just got so excited with being able to harass. And
it's hard to tell yourself that, as a Crystal Maiden, what I've realized as Crystal Maiden is my kit's all about enabling my teammates most of the time. It's all about enabling my teammates. My passive gives them mana to spam in lane, and then I want them to have extra levels on the opponent, and then I just want to walk over, nuke the guy, use Frostbite on him, and kill him. Like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to play away from the lane as often as possible, and then be like, hey, carry, here's 300 damage of nukes and 2 slows, and you can go kill him now,
Yes.
But in the meantime, I'm going to go stand on the side as my 40 base damage, squishy self over here, and let you have all the stuff. That's how I look at Crystal Maiden, right? If you're like an Undying, you're like bodying the opponent, you're manning up and hitting them and all that kind of stuff. But as Crystal Maiden, this is what happens if you ever come close to the opponent. It's right there. That was a reasonable TP. That was good. But go ahead. I know you were gonna say something. It sounds like.
No, I mean, I think it's just a reestablishing of priority and what's important.
You've probably heard a lot of voices since we last talked. That is fair.
Many, coach. Many, coach. And that's why I say, like, talking to you, it's just reestablishing it. I know it's not advisable to try to listen to too many people. I know that. It's just that you just can't help it. I mean, we haven't spoken like almost.
It's not a bad thing that you did it. I'm not blaming you. I don't blame the people telling you. I think if they're 3K and you're or like 2K or 3K, if they're 1,000 or 2 MMR above you and they're trying to give you advice, I don't think that's bad. I don't think this is a bad thing.
I don't blame them for as well. I
Yeah.
just think I know it's coming from a good place, but as well, I mean, that's the value. And I do miss the weekly sessions, but
Yes.
that's why a repeat session was definitely in order. Just you doing this to me, I'm like, we spoke about this on our first session. We're just like, Eri, your job is to pull and contest the pull. If you do that, everything kind of going really well. And
You will feel like the lanes are so easy because you look over, the Abaddon's level 4 and your Void's almost level 6, and you're like, oh, nice. Like, I guess we'll kill him with Chrono when he has it, you know?
Yes. Okay, coach.
It kind of plays itself out. A lot of times, if the opponent doesn't think like you here, you kind of just win the lane. As long as your Void doesn't die, he just gets more levels, and he's like, wait a minute, this lane feels so easy. I can just tell you as an offlaner, if the carry's a level ahead of me, the lane is like unrecognizably more difficult. Like, if I'm level 4 and the carry's level 4, the lane feels pretty good as an offlaner. But if he's level 5, almost level 6, and I'm only level 4 as an offlaner, it is so hard. It is so hard to lane. Like, it's just so hard.
In every matchup?
Obviously, every matchup, the importance is a bit different. You know, like, some matchups it's not as bad as others, but on average, the difference is just so large. It's so large. Like, it'll be the difference between ever killing that carry, which means the carry has to play scared, or the carry just being virtually unkillable and I can't do anything and I just have to play really passively the entire lane. So it's like, if my Void's level 5.5 and the Abaddon's level 4, if the Abaddon tries to be like aggressive on him, the Void can just like hit him. You know, it's like, oh, what do you know, what am I afraid of? You're a level lower than me. I'll just hit you back. And so what that turns into, instead of the Abaddon hitting him a bunch of times, he just doesn't hit him at all because you know, he doesn't win the trades anymore. So it's a very, very large swing here. So we're gonna fast forward a bit, but go ahead and ask any questions if you had one.
I think just coming from this, I mean, just talking for just the first 8 minutes of the game, it's really just there you go. It's really just getting more farm than the opponent. That's it. It's just coming on from getting more farm than the opponent. I mean, if we kill you, we get more farm, we get more gold, we get stronger, we get more items. It's just kind of reestablishing the getting more farm than the opponent.
Have you ever watched a Secret game?
I have, but I think right now, honestly, I've just been focused on playing Dota that I don't get to watch as much pro matches.
No,
I
it's
you
go ahead.
as much as I can.
Yeah, the curiosity, the reason why I ask is because you say, you know, BSJ, it seems like, or Brian, Coach B, it's like, it seems like all you're telling me is I have to get more farm than the opponent. And what I'm telling you is all these little guidelines, like every time they pull the large camp, slightly inefficient for you. Every time you pull the small camp, it's slightly more efficient for you. Every time you nuke a range creep, it's slightly more efficient for you. Every time you leave your carry at every single moment that he's allowed to be alone, that's slightly more efficient for your team, right? If you watch, it's slight, right? It's slight, but you do like 10 of these things and suddenly it's not so slight anymore, right?
Yes.
So if you watch Secret, if you watch their games as like a casual viewer, I swear to you, 90% of the games looks like nothing happens and Secret's just ahead by 5,000 gold at 15 minutes. Like, literally nothing happens. Like, there's games where the kill score is like 3-1, or even in favor of the opponent team, and Secret's just ahead by 5k gold at 15 minutes. And it's just because all the little things they do are just slightly more efficient than every other team in the world. Like, they just do it that much little bit better. And so it's like, Dota's not that fancy. Go ahead. What's up? What's up?
Hello.
Hello?
Oh yeah, we're back. Hello.
Yeah. Your camera's lagging a bit. Yeah, go ahead.
Why Secret is so dominant?
Oh, it's crazy, man. I watch their games and I'm like, what happens is, so an example of like mid-game efficiency is like, say it takes 3 heroes to take a tower. A mediocre team would bring 4, while Secret would bring exactly 3. And it's like, if you require 2 heroes to gank somebody, Secret will bring exactly those 2 heroes and nothing more. Nothing less, nothing more, right? They know exactly how much they need to do exactly everything in the game. Like, that game sense is, like, insane, right? But, like,
so they're arguably the most efficient team in Dota.
Oh, yeah. Like, even, like, OG, even though OG took a game off them in, like, the Omega League finals and stuff, OG's not even nearly as efficient as Secret. But, like, OG is one of the best team-fighting teams in the world. Their like, spell casting is insanely good. Their, like, knowledge of their limits when it comes to engagements is, like, insane. So that's what OG does really well. But, like, all these little efficiency things I'm telling you, like, Secret's the team where I'm just like, They don't even look like anything happened. They just won. The game is just over, I guess. It's hilarious to watch. So when you say it's like, Coach B, it seems like all you got to do is get more farm than the opponent. That's all the laning stage is, really. Like, that's all it is. All of these little things. It quickly adds up. What happened was, so I was in a really high MMR game yesterday, and I accidentally dove tower. Like, I went into tower range and took, like, 4 tower shots, didn't have a salve, and I had to base. I came back to lane. The enemy carry was now level 5 when I was barely level 4, and they were able to play aggressively from then point on. I was level 5. That was like 4 minutes into the game, okay? 4 minutes into the game. Yeah. I was level 5 at 10 minutes on offlaner. I was level 5 at 10 minutes because I couldn't walk up to lane anymore because the guy was, like, stronger than me, right? It's like...
Because he knew how to use
the strengths. Obviously, it wouldn't be punishing as much in your bracket. Even when you let them pull, when you let them do that pull, the Abaddon just drag creeps into his tower, and then the lane went back to normal. So you didn't even get punished, really, for that.
No.
You got punished minorly, but very minorly, rather than in my bracket. But the point is, every little slight thing where I'm, like, down by a level, suddenly it's 2 levels, suddenly it's 3 levels, suddenly it's 4 levels. That's what Secret does. So, like, if you're giving your carry level 6 before the Abaddon, right? He gets a kill on Abaddon. Suddenly he's level 7, and the Abaddon's level 5. It's like... whoever gets to 6 here, because Abaddon becomes unkillable with his 6, and Void gets his kill potential with 6, right? It's going to, like, drastically shift the momentum of this lane. It's like, whoever hits 6 first is suddenly going to be level 7 before the other guy is level 6.
And then we can make more moves.
And then you get to make even more moves. Next Chrono, he dies again, right?
Can take over the map. We can start doing these
exactly.
things. You know what's so cool, Coach? Like, just from this talk, reestablishing this again, it's shifting my perspective. Obviously, like I said, I've played with many people. I've heard many voices. It's reestablishing, get more farm than they do. And when you mentioned, like, you only need 3 people to hit the creeps, I remember the lesson you told me. Are you needed to get this Rex? No. So what do you need to do? TP top so that you can push the lane. It's just kind of just reminding me all these little efficient movements that add up to a win. Sometimes you do all these things right, and maybe you'll still lose because maybe your carry made some bad decisions. It's fine. But what you're telling me and what you're reinforcing with me after the session is like, Eri, if you keep doing this all the time, eventually you will have a higher win rate.
Yes, that is all it is consistency over the course of numerous games, right?
Yes. Okay, I got it, Coach.
Yeah, and this is an example where your Void... Okay, so my question for you would be... It's funny how this works. It's so most heroes work like this. If I tell you Void the way he is in lane, how is he most likely on the map? Like, how is, like, when it comes to playing lanes later on, like, 10 minutes in the game? Does Void want you near him? And if he does, why?
10 minutes into the game?
Yeah, 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes into the game. Why would Void want you near him? Because your carry is going to be just farming, right? He's just going to be hitting creeps all the time?
Yes.
So if he's hitting creeps, why would he ever want you nearby? Like, what do you offer to him by being in the same area as him?
Maybe just to help him out if people are ganking him.
Okay, so maybe to protect him, sure.
To protect him, yes, to protect him. If I want him near, maybe to stack. Maybe that's one thing. If I would be close to him again, if let's say I'm doing something else and he wants, if I'm in the opportunity to stack for him, that's one. Ward.
You don't necessarily have to be close to him to do that, though, right? You could be complete opposite side of the map and stack for him, right?
Yes, that is
true. So that doesn't necessarily. That's something you do for him, but that's not something you have to be close to him for. So you talked about saving him, right? You talked about saving him.
Yes.
You also talked about or protecting him. You also talked. So what about the opposite side of that?
The opposite side of that.
Yeah.
Coach?
Instead of protecting him, what else can, like, the opposite side is helping him kill people, right?
Yes, so helping him kill. Yes.
So with his chrono, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's like, if you have a Void who's, like, trying to say, hey, let's make a move with Chrono or whatever, then you play near him. Yeah, otherwise, you're protecting him. What's one thing Void can't do? He can't defend towers. This hero doesn't defend towers ever.
No.
So as a 5 position, if you have a Void on your team and he doesn't defend towers, what should you be doing?
Defend towers.
So where should you be?
At this point,
We talked
Because
about dead lane. If there's a lane you're gonna defend, what is it?
it's gonna be dead lane. If there's a lane I'm gonna defend, it's gonna be. Well, I know TPing mid to get experience. That's one. If there's a, it's our bottom
Yeah,
because
bottom
we
lane.
don't want them. We don't want them to be pushing into us. Yes, because they
Yes.
can get more farm than us. Yes.
Yes. So my point is, when you're a 5, we're talking about a bajillion factors here, but
Please,
the factor
yes.
that now comes into play around the end of the laning stage. It's around the end, okay? So it's simply, does my carry defend towers? So types of carries that defend towers are like a Terrorblade who can send his illusion. Heroes with long-range nukes like Spectre are pretty decent at defending their towers. Heroes like PL who can send illusions. Heroes like Drow who can attack from a long ways away sometimes. A hero like Jug who's unkillable and can sit underneath his own tower and defend. These are types of heroes that defend their towers. Either ones that are absolutely unkillable or ones with long-range nukes. So
But
guess
Void
what?
is a 1v1 hitter.
Void is a
so-
1v1 hitter, so he does not defend towers, right? So the point is, though, at 8 minutes, when the lane's over, if your carry's a tower defender, you'll only go bottom to help him defend his tower. Like, that's why you would go bottom. You're like, okay, I need to help this guy defend his tower. Otherwise, you're now thinking to yourself, well, my carry's not going to defend that tower, so now I have to do it.
Got it.
Remember, your job as support is to do all the stuff your cores don't want to do. That's all. Or they can't do. They either can't or don't want to. So in the early game, I told you your job is to secure range because your carry can't. Like your carry hero literally can't. And then your job also is to prevent the pull at the large camp because your carry is busy CSing and he can't do that. Right? But the one time I told you don't have to worry about that is when the lane is up here and your carry is capable of stopping it.
Yes.
So it's all coming through the lens of what can my carry not do? And what does my carry need from me? So if that's all, it's a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, at this stage in the game, should your Void ever die? Other than getting 5-man ganked, like let's assume, any hero will die to a 5-man gank. Does Void die to these heroes?
1v. Well, he can die to Jug.
If Jug Omni slashes him, what does Void do?
He can time walk away.
Okay. If Quap, Blink screams him and goes on him, what does he do?
He can time walk.
Okay. Is he gonna die in an Ogre Stun?
No.
Okay. So
Not unless it's 5-man bank, so he doesn't die.
he just doesn't die, right? So he doesn't
Yes.
need you to be protected. Like he doesn't need protection.
Yes.
So then at that point, I would say, okay, my Void's just not going to die here. Like, I know my Void's unkillable as long as there's not a shit ton of heroes. So what is the likelihood of him having a shit ton of heroes around him goes infinitely up if your team is hanging out with him. Do you see that, right? Like, if you guys are all playing together, it makes it more likely the opponent will play together, right?
Yes.
It just makes that's like a very natural cause and effect in Dota. So in this type of example, I'm telling you, Void loves playing 1v1s. He loves farming on his own. And if you ever play around him, it's just that much more likely the opponent's going to come join him. The opponent's going to come towards him. So if you're playing bottom and nuking this out, all you're doing is drawing attention away from the guy that wants to be farming. Your SF's maybe doing a gank top or something if he wants to. But the idea is, by being near the Void, in lane it was bad, in game it's bad, unless he's chronoing somebody.
Yes.
Right? And that was the exact thought we had going into the lane, where we want him to get level 6 first. It's the exact idea here, where it's like, if he wants to go chrono somebody, I want to try to show up, so I can throw my spells in from a long range. But I was like, I watched this, and I'm like, what is Eri doing here, man? Like, what are you... You're just soaking his XP.
I am just soaking his XP where I could just say bottom for a bit and soak XP alone. And
Yeah,
he can...
yeah. The thing is, if you die here, and you delay this catapult push, and get, like, 5 creeps worth of XP, it's worth it.
It's worth it?
100% worth it. Like, if you're here nuking this out, and you die for it, it's worth it. Obviously, you're trying not to die. You need to do this job with the attempt to not die. But I guarantee you, in your bracket, the Abaddon's going to do this. You're going to sit here nuking it, and, like, you'll just farm the next wave, too. And you're not even taking your tower. Like, look at this. Amazing teams this tower would die, okay? This tower would die
Yes.
right here in this wave.
Yes.
Because a Batten would
Yes.
be hitting it, Ogre would be hitting it, and not only did they not protect their catapult, this Ogre pulled so that the next wave didn't protect the catapult. Like, this is terrible, right? So you could just be here sitting underneath your tower just nuking this, right? Like, this is terrible. In my bracket, it's actually unlikely for them to dive me effectively. I'm not even joking. Until I get to top 100 NA, it is unreliable for the opponents to dive me underneath my own safe lane as a 5 position. I don't know for sure they're gonna do it. Might they? Sure. Like, I'm not telling you you're never gonna get dove underneath your tower, but like until top 100, I would feel relatively okay with
Safe
being.
around here.
Yeah, I would be underneath tower. Like, I would never walk up and hit creeps. I'm just soaking XP and occasionally nuking a little bit, right? Like, I'm sitting as far back as possible. I am scared as fuck, but the point is, you are soaking XP from your void while also not getting XP of your own. So you're basically transferring this XP that's non-existent and taking it. Not just like losing it, you're taking it away from void.
And not to mention protect the tower as well. Coach,
Absolutely.
I'm coming at a point here where it's been a while since we spoke again, but we are reestablishing basically be more efficient in getting more farm than your opponent.
Yes.
Right?
We are trying to
I've
break the
also-
bad habits. Go ahead.
Break the bad habits. I've also been told that what is more important when everyone fights together, is it more important to always be with my team when they're about to fight, or I just want to know what's more important priority in my head when where teams are about to fight? Do I still prevent? Do I get more? But no. But I'm gonna answer my own question, Coach. If
That's
they
good.
kill us, then they get more farm than we do because we're
Yes.
more sport gold.
Yes.
So obviously, I joined them for team fights
yes.
because that is more important than defending this tower. If they're fighting, let's say 4 versus 5, my ult can turn the tide. If we kill them, we get more gold, we get more farm than they do. Okay.
So my crucial thing for you as a support, this applies to every role, honestly, but it's like 100% the support.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is gradient, okay? There's a gradient. So every role has like some degree of how often they're supposed to be ready to fight at every point in the game. So it's like oftentimes around this stage in the game, your carry's not at fights. There are some times, right, where the carry will come chrono or whatever. You have a different type of, you have like a more mid-game heavy carry. But it's like, at this stage in the game, your carry can tend to play more greedy in a way that's like he's prioritizing his own farm versus showing up to fights, right? So for you as a support, though, so we're going to ignore we're not going to go through like the tabs of every role. For you as a support, you pretty much need to be able to be at every single fight that ever exists. So if you're like in this lane, farming it like this, you probably needed to have walked there. Because that allows you, if a fight breaks out mid or a fight breaks out top, you can then TP there, right? So I'm not telling you to never TP to farm as support, but the only time you're probably ever going to TP to farm as support is after a fight. Because, you know, you took the fight and then you're like, hey, I see this lane that needs to be cleared out. I'm going to go clear it out real quick. And then by the time the next fight's happening, I'll be ready to go. You see what I'm saying? So in this case, when you say, like, is it more important to be at the fight ahead of time or whatever, I would rather, instead of saying you need to be at the fight at this specific moment or whatever, that you need to be capable of being at every single fight. So that's a lot about preserving your TP. If you don't have a TP, you know, walk to your team from wherever you are. And if you are using your TP to defend a tower like this, I usually try to communicate, hey team, like I'm TPing bottom, I can't fight, or
I can't TP back for the next minute and a half.
Yes, and it's very important that you realize that you're taking yourself out of the game effectively, you know, like if you do that. And so it doesn't mean never do it. It just means it has to mean a lot. You know, like say you see 4 heroes mid on the opponent team, and there's just like 9 creeps wailing on your tower, and you know if you TP there, you're getting 9 creeps, and you're stopping the tower from dying. I think that's worth it. You know, like I think that's fine to go defend your tower. Yeah, to go defend a tower. Like you defended a tower by being a 5 position. Like that's a great use of being a 5 position. So
But because of that, let's say just theory for these four enemy creeps, these four the four people in mid decide
yeah,
to go on. Let's say a fight happens and I TP. I'm just it's still a good thing to TP
the
down
way
there?
I look at this is if I'm forced to TP to farm, like as a support, I usually stay for the one wave that I TP'd there for. So it's usually like oh shit, there's a huge wave there. I need to go get that real quick. And then I instantly walk away. I don't stay there any longer. Because at that point, you're not taking yourself out of the game for 80 seconds. You're taking yourself out for maybe the 15 seconds you took to farm the wave, and then like the 25 seconds it took you to walk back. So you're removing yourself for like 30 or 40 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. And so the best thing to do there is to communicate, guys. I'm gonna TP really quick to get this team. If they fight, just hold up for a bit.
Yeah, I'll be back mid in 30 seconds. You know, or like something like that.
Yeah. Okay. If
Go ahead.
man, efficiency, man.
It's hard, dude. It's a lot.
But it's a concept in regards to if that is what your core values are as a player, you value that, everything kind of just adds up easily. You kind of answer a lot of questions. It's
Yeah,
just
you
about
end up
doing
with
it.
like, is this going to be like, am I going to get a net positive gold or XP advantage from doing this or this? Like, which one do I think gives me more? And that's all. That's what Dota comes down to. The cool thing about me giving you answers is just like I'll tell you from thousands of examples in the laning stage. If you let them pull the large camp, it's a bad for you, right? So like that's my thing. I can just tell you that because I've already done I've learned the lesson the hard way. But it's like in the mid game for you, it's like I want you to realize I want you to be as many fights as possible, but at the end of the day, every time you see your tower getting pushed, it's a consideration for you to go there, and you have to decide whether it's worth it to you. I just don't want this tower getting hit and you not even considering it. That's what I'm seeing in this game, right? I'm seeing you like hanging out mid with your void and then walking top, and I guarantee it didn't even cross your mind to go here. Didn't even cross
That is the many voices. That is the many voices I've heard over the course of Sid's.
I think you need to prioritize solo queue and just straight up mute everybody because like you need to do it like. Go ahead.
On me performing the way I could.
Yes.
I'm not communicating. I'm just performing the way that I need to.
You obviously it might hurt you a bit because as a support you're gonna try to communicate and all that kind of stuff. But there are these basic jobs you as support can really focus on for yourself. And a lot of core players, myself included sometimes, are really inclined to micro you. Like, we really like telling you what we think you're supposed to do. Okay? I'm sure you're aware of this. We really like doing this.
At my bracket, coach. At my bracket, yes.
So I mean, it happens in my bracket too, and like I've tried to do it less for myself. But the problem in my bracket now is that you get people like me that are it's like high 8K, and then some of your supports are like 6K. So you actually have to tell them what to do, not because you're like, it's just because they're actually 2,000 MMR lower than you. It's like the thing is that I want you to establish a sort of confidence for yourself where people can try to tell you and give you suggestions, but at the end of the day, you have your own solid foundation of like what you can lean on as like, I think this is correct. Like I'm pretty damn sure this is correct. And if somebody says something that's just completely different than what you think is correct, that you can kind of stick to your guns, like,
or I can ask them a question, but what would that do?
Yeah, you could even just say, like, I think I need to clear this wave bottom. You want to fight mid? I'll be there in 30. Like, if they say, hey, like, CM, why did you TP bottom? We need to fight mid. You'd be like, I just need to clear this wave. I'll be there. Like, give them a little bit of a, this is why I did it, and I'll, like, just wait 30 seconds for me. And if they don't wait, then so be it.
And just to reestablish, this bottom tier tower is so important because it gives them so much. It prevents them from getting geography, which is more farm.
It's a gateway tower, right? If they take this, this camp becomes safe for them. This camp becomes very safe for them. Even this camp becomes safe for them, right? We talked about how every tower kind of represents specific jungle camps that both teams can start taking, right?
That's it. Yeah.
And so that's why for you as a support, it's like if your carry is bottom still. So if your carry leaves bottom, there's two scenarios. You can even write this down if you want. There's two scenarios. Your carry leaves bottom, and you need to consider how impactful you would be to defend the tower, but it has to be considered. And then two, your carry stays bottom, and you have to consider how helpful would I be if I counter ganked for him. Like, how helpful would it be if I, if he was getting dove? Because you have to assume worst case scenario that whoever TP's bottom is potentially diveable. Like, whoever goes here is going to get dove. I want to actually show you a quick example, if you don't mind, before we are about hitting the hour. I want to show you something. This is a hilarious game. So I actually need to pull up my second here. It's on my other accounts, so I need to pull it up.
While you're doing that, Coach, quick question. Like, how important is it if I prioritize this? Because I was told, I was also told by a player that play around your cooldowns, play around your ults. If you do this at your bracket, you'll pretty much win most of the time.
Yeah.
At your bracket, just play around your cooldowns, play around your ults. Basically that. As long as you have play around your timings, basically your power spikes. Like know when the timings of your hero house, basically when they become significantly stronger versus when they're not being able to do something that they couldn't before. If you know these timings, and of course you know the cooldowns, then you'll probably reach higher levels more often than not. I mean, you'll at your bracket, you say.
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you think about that, Coach? I'm comparing that with always getting more the farm concept, get more farm than they do. But I'm also adding that into the mix as just to give you an idea.
You're talking about like exact cooldowns and durations and stuff?
Cooldown, basically playing off ults of cooldowns, like playing off the ults of my teammates and also the ults of my opponents. Let's say if Void has Chrono or not, knowing that he doesn't have Chrono and being able to take advantage of that is one thing. And knowing my Sven needs to farm for a significant amount before he can fight. PA needs
knowing these things is absolutely huge. Yes, that's a huge deal.
Yes.
So the big thing for me is that when you have cores that have long cooldowns, you just need to understand they're literally two different heroes. You have to treat them as two different heroes. When they have their cooldowns, they're one hero. When they don't have their cooldowns, they're a different hero.
Okay, that's a good perspective. Yes.
So that's how I look at it, right? It's like if Spectre has Haunt, she's a global gank that helps me, and I want to play away from her and force a fight somewhere else where she can haunt onto it. If Spectre doesn't have Haunt, I'm either looking to play passively or I'm maybe looking to save her because the opponent team probably is going to try to gank her, right? That's an example of what I mean by how Spectre is a completely different hero just based on having Haunt or not. It's like with Faceless Void, if he has Chrono, you should be looking for aggressive plays with him. If he doesn't have Chrono, you would only ever go to him if he needs your help for defense.
Yes.
That would only be the time you ever help him. So that's what, like, when it comes to that, it's important to start to learn what the capabilities of a hero become. Are they no longer allowed to fight? Are they no longer the damage? Are they able to fight, but maybe they're weaker at fighting? So maybe they're like willing to defend towers, but not take towers, you know, like making an aggressive move, but they're willing to fight if they have to. There's actually like difference between being willing to fight and wanting to fight. There's like a big difference, right? Like wanting to fight means we have all of our ultimates, let's go crush them. Being willing to fight means like maybe we don't have all of our ults, but like we're strong enough that we think we shouldn't just give them a tower, you know, like that kind of thing.
Okay.
So let me fast forward to a moment in this game, and we're going to wrap it up here because I want to show you something. Me as a offlane, I have to think similarly to you as a support. So my question is this.
Okay.
If the opponents, we're going to lay this out for you. I'm going to see how much you can follow here because these are, I'm sure you see Drow and Spectre a decent amount, right? In your games?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So if Spectre has Haunt and my Drow dies, so she died, my Spectre still has Haunt, my Drow just respawned, okay? That's what just happened here. And my Drow TP's here. That's what just happened.
Yes.
What do you think's going to happen in like the next 30 to 45 seconds?
Drow just TP's alone. Bottom.
Yes, and Spectre has Haunt, and she's top.
Ult. She's top. Drow's advantage is being able to do damage as a distance. Spectre's ability is being able to just teleport in your face, Son Goku style, and just pummel you.
Yeah.
So I would say Spec with TP. The win condition is either Shadow Feed or definitely Drow is a very important one. So maybe Haunt Drow.
Okay, so if Spectre's gonna haunt the Drow, what's the opponent team gonna do?
They're gonna go there and try to help Drow.
They're gonna go hunt the Drow, right? That's what they're gonna do? Because
Oh,
I told
sorry.
you, when you have a Spectre on your team, did I tell you to play towards her or away from her when she has haunt?
You can play away from her.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if I'm a carry player, my job is to usually TP to places that are safe, right? I want to be
Yes.
clear to you. This guy's rank 100 in A, okay?
Yes. Yes.
So if this is stuff that I'm telling you now and you can learn, but obviously, the understanding it takes to apply it at super high levels is really hard. So I
Yes.
said, Spectre wants people to play away from her when she has haunt because, she doesn't want people in her face and she can be anywhere for a gank. So if I'm if I'm Drow, I'm a carry, I'm thinking I want to TP to the safest place on the map. So if the opponent has a Spectre with haunt, I would say the gradient of safety is as close to Spectre as possible is safe, while as far away from as possible from Spectre is dangerous. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
by TPing bottom, is Drow in danger? By
Yes,
TPing
he is.
bottom.
Yes, she is.
If you watch my stream here, I know this, right? I know carry matchups, okay? So I'm like, okay, well, that TP by Drow...
Now that
I'm
you
like-
set it up, all happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that Drow TP was terrible. That's what I said on stream. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to be ready to respond. That's what I said. I'm like, I have to be ready to respond when they diver, okay? That's what I said on stream. There's evidence, video evidence. Let's watch this play out.
Okay. 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 There it is. There is the haunt.
Wait,
Everyone...
sorry. Let's...
Okay. And there's the... Okay. Oh, freaking A, man. Oh, they killed Drow.
Killing spree.
Again.
Oh,
dude.
This is Gabe Newell. Thanks for playing Dota 2.
Oh, you guys take it, though.
I'm saying that the only reason this worked is because the entire team on my side responded.
Yes.
Right?
Responded, yes.
Because we know Drow's under danger. They're going to go on her. She's going to get haunted on. And this is all by virtue of understanding hero matchups. Like, that's all it is. That's the only reason we all know this. I mean, the Drow TP was honestly terrible, and I still think it's terrible despite what happened in this fight. Because he forced his entire team to go bottom, right? That's what happened here. But the idea is this, right? When I told you your decisions when it came to Void, you do need to start thinking, does this carry want me nearby? Do they want to be near the opponent carry? Do they want to be away from the opponent carry? Are they a guy that defends towers? Are they a guy that takes towers? Because we talked about dead lane. If they're a tower defender, they're going to be down here. If they're a tower taker, they're going to be up here. If they're a passive farmer, they're going to be over here, right? Like, every hero behaves differently, right? So it's like, if they can't defend towers and they can't take towers, then they're a passive farmer, right? Like, that's kind of the...
If they can't defend towers, they can't take towers, they're a passive farm.
Yeah, right? They're a hero that doesn't want to be near anybody. So then it's like, but notice how I had to understand the Drow and the Spectre very well to make the right decision there. But I want you to start focusing on your carry. Like, that's what I want you to focus on, because it's one step at a time. I don't want you to have to worry about 10 variables. I want you, next session, whatever replay you show me or whatever we do, to be able to give me your best impression of what you think your carry exactly wants from you in lane, in terms of how often you need to be there and exactly what you're supposed to do, and exactly what they want from you in the mid game. Like, what they want you to do for them. Do they want you near them? Do they need you to give them a ward? Do they want you to help them gank? Do they want you to save them? Do they want you never in their vicinity and ever? Like, do they need you to defend their tower for them? Do they need you to... what do they need from you? And I want you to be able to give me your best guess. I'm not expecting you to know, right, perfectly.
Yes.
But
so the next, maybe after 2 weeks, like after 2 weeks, a week or 2 weeks, when our next session is.
Yes, whenever that is, I want this to be like, BSJ told me to think about this. I'm going to go into my next games thinking this, and I'm going to find out, right? Like, I'm going to think to myself, I thought this was how this was supposed to go, and then Coach B, I responded to that gank bottom, and we all died.
But I'm telling you what I was trying to apply what you taught
Yeah, as
me.
long as you try to give me a reason for what you did, that's all I care about. I just need you to be able to give me a reason. And if you give me one, I can work with it. I can be like, okay, I see what you were going for, but now let's try to fix it. You know
Coach,
what I mean?
just coming from this session, I'm all slowly trying to understand why certain people reach 6K without knowing something, but would just followed one. You said 6K players reach a certain level, and these sort of players reach a certain level, but they don't even they're maybe not even as aware of the map. They just really team fight really well when they need to. But coming from the kind of concepts you're teaching me, farming as efficiently as possible compared to others, I know if, let's say, this was the beginning of maybe if we didn't speak, turning into the type of player that maybe would be very, very different from being able to see that. Because again, I've heard so many voices since we talked, but the principles you're teaching me is like farm better than the opponent, like since the beginning, um dead lane everything. And you even highlight secret as saying, listen, this is what the team does, this is the team that does best in regards to winning a game. They're just incredibly efficient with compared to everyone, and secret is where they are. It is what it is. It explains in itself. But all I'm saying is there's so many ways to actually get better as a Dota player. Like you can just become an incredible team fighter and reach up. But yeah, that's basically what I'm understanding.
That's the cool
You
part
can
about
take-
Dota. There's a lot of different skills that are required in
Always.
Dota. The reason why I get upset when people, not with you obviously here, but with people that come to me is they do say like, hey, I don't need these things to be a better Dota player. But the thing
Yeah.
is, the absolute best Dota players in the world, they have as many of these traits as humanly possible, right? Like, they may not have 100% of them. Some of them may not think about the map as good as other people while they team fight perfectly. While some of them may think about the map like secret as well as like probably better than anyone else in the world, but maybe they don't team fight quite as well as OG, for instance. But the
Yes.
point is, when people argue, hey, you can make it to rank 100 NA on Drow and not understand you're not supposed to TP to your own safe lane against Spectre. But
Yeah.
the point is, it's all about how many of these things you can put in your toolkit, because the more you have, the better. And the more situations you make the right decision, it's just going to be a higher MMR. I'll tell you, I made it to rank 30, and I still make plenty of mistakes. I'm not going to make that exact mistake Drow made, but these mistakes that I'm telling you not to make, I make them.
Yeah.
I still make
Yeah.
them. The goal is
Yeah.
to make them once every 5 games instead of, whatever, as little as humanly possible. But that's the beauty of Dota, is that there's just so many. You said if I'm not on and, I kind of just struggle, it's like you have to be thinking at every single moment, every single TP you do, every single creep you decide to hit, every place you ward, every fight you take, every, little thing, man. It's like if you do it right, you're that much little more likely to win the game. You do it wrong, you're slightly less likely to win the game, So, do you have any final questions before we, let you go on, back out to the world of pubs? Or
I think from this point, Coach, my last question: if I just apply that concept of just farm better than they do, that's already solid for me. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm not supposed to learn all these other things like matchups, item timings, all of these things. Naturally, those things will come. But if I put that as my most important, would you say that in terms of guiding me as a coach, you'd say, all right, definitely prioritize that for now where you're at?
the thing is, every coach is going to be different, right? Like every coach treats
of
things
course.
differently. That's how I got to 7K. I had virtually no knowledge of the game, and I was just efficient, and I made it to 7K. So from my perspective, I would say yes. That is the most important thing. A lot of those matchup specific things, I want you to know the general thought. What I mean by general thought is, do these hero, like, it's the questions. Remember how I always emphasize to you the questions. It's like,
What's my problems?
yes. Who are the problems? Does my carry want me nearby? Do they want me to go away? Do they want me to defend towers? Do they want me to be aggressive? And then ask yourself those questions. And the answers to the questions can only be found by playing, right? Like, so when you talk about, hero matchups and map movements and all that, or like map, like team fight execution, a lot of it's like no amount of me talking to you about it other than giving you the questions is going to make you better at it. It's just like,
That is true.
you just have to experience it yourself and then make it, like, learn from your own mistakes or, from things that went right. But
Yes.
the games for me that I learned the absolute most, and the reason why I was emphasizing to you, is the games where I'm like, I think I need this item build on this hero in the draft, and it's my job to do this in team fights, and that's what I'm going to aim to do.
Yes.
And then if I lose, I'm like, wow, I guess that just didn't work. So I guess my vision of the game was a bit off. But if I win, I'm like, damn, like that felt good. I know exactly why I won. I know, all that kind of stuff. So for you, it's like all these little things I'm making sure you think about. They matter for efficiency every single game. And I just don't want them to fly under your radar. Like, I don't want you to just not realize they exist. So it's like, I always emphasize one thing at a time. All of these things culminate into, the bigger picture. I would say it's like, if you're gonna, like, we talked about isolating, factors. We talked about playing very few heroes. If, like, for the immediate future, it's like, immediate recommendation, you play 10 games of CM and there's not a single range creep that goes uncontested. And it's like, if the lane pushes, you pull the small camp. You don't let them ever pull the big camp. If they pull the big camp, you failed as a Crystal Maiden. My question for you would be, I'm actually curious for you. If you think to yourself, I tried to stop them from pulling the big camp, Coach B, and I just couldn't. They pulled it anyways, and I died trying to stop them. What do you think you should have done then?
If I tried, okay. I tried to contest a big camp, but they pulled me.
They say they pulled the camp. You tried to stop them, but in the midst of stopping them, you died. And you're like, Coach B, I tried to stop them, but I just couldn't.
Well, two things come to mind. Well, now I would say try to do it in a safer way possible. Maybe use my nukes as a way to kind of pull it. Do it in a safer way possible.
Absolutely.
That's one.
That's a great consideration. Absolutely.
Or just pull the small camp.
If you do the absolute safest possibility, so the safe point was a good one. If you do the absolute safest possibility, you're like, Coach B, I played that as safe as I possibly could, and I still couldn't. What? And
I still couldn't contest.
Yeah, and you still couldn't contest. What's the answer? Do you know? Do you just accept that they pull the big camp and say, well, shit, I couldn't do anything about it?
I'm going to try to answer. There's no right. I mean, there's obviously a right answer, but I'm going to try based on what I know. What I'm thinking is, one, I pull the small camp because at least that kind of just does some damage control. Two, I asked my core to help me out to basically try to contest and pull it next time.
Okay, so
that's what I'm thinking.
Honestly, asking your core to help you is a great idea. So here's what you've come to, right? I just realized your cam might have been off. I don't know why, but it might have been. But either way.
It's okay.
So either way, let's hear this out. So you've come up with, I needed to be a bit safer. Maybe I could have taken a nuke from longer range. Maybe I could have asked my carry to help me. These are great things, okay? This is a great way to think, okay? And I'm telling you, those thoughts are actually... That if anyone can think like that, where it's like, if this went wrong, like every time I take a bad fight and my team misses 4 spells or something, like say we just miss stuns and they say we shouldn't have taken that fight, I can't stand that shit. Okay, like I'm like, oh my god, like how do you know that's a bad fight? You missed 4 of your spells. Like what if we just hit them with them? And it's like, for me, it's like, if we mis-execute a fight, I'll never know if we were supposed to take that fight or not unless we run it back and we execute it. Unless we do it right. So what you're saying is, I'm doing all of these things that could potentially help me stop the camp. So I forced you, if something happens where you tried to stop the camp, these answers to yourself were great. You tried to come up with all the ways you could stop that camp. Okay?
Yes.
And if
Because that's-
none of them work,
Yeah.
you have exhausted every humanly. You have Doctor Strange this shit. There are 0 outcomes that are gonna work. What is left to do?
Okay. Because the best play, getting
You
more
did the
farm-
absolute perfect play. Your carry helped you contest. You nuked perfectly. You spellcasted perfectly. You were positioned perfectly, and they still pulled the big camp.
Still pulled the big camp. They pulled the big camp. The creeps are there. Our creeps are pushing.
I don't want
would
you to
say-
overthink it. You just can't let that camp spawn.
You can't let that camp spawn?
Yeah. Ward block it, body block it, whatever. You can't let it spawn.
Because I take away their ability to pull the big camp.
Yeah. But if you couldn't
So I-
stop them, you have to stop them somehow. You have to not let it be
Yeah.
there. It's
So
like,
don't basically.
go ahead.
Oh, okay.
It's
Oh,
the
that
same
makes
idea
sense.
as if we played that fight perfectly. Like if we casted every single spell, we landed everything, perfect unison, and we lose the fight. What's the answer? We just don't take that fight.
We don't take that fight.
Like, but
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it is I don't like when bad things happen and people just say that was a bad idea. We shouldn't have let them done that or like do that
Yeah.
or we shouldn't have taken that fight or we shouldn't have contested that big camp. I want you to understand that that big camp isn't allowed to be pulled. You have to figure out a way to stop it from being pulled.
Figure out a way to stop and block. Yeah, block it with the ward. Block it with the ward.
So if you go into a lane and you try to contest and something goes wrong, you need to ask yourself, was it because of the hero matchups? Did I misplay it? Was there something I could have done? And then next time around, try to do it again. And if it doesn't work again, you'd be like, man, do I actually need to block it in this thing? You know, like, do I actually need to stop this thing from spawning? It's like, you know, these are considerations, but I love the way you think. Like, I did like, that's why we kept, I really wanted to do the series with, like, after initial impressions with the first one. That's the thing, is I asked you and you said you tried to come up with every possible thing you could think of that would make the situation better. And that's the mentality that I love in Dota. That's hard to find, actually. A lot of people don't think that way. And I want to promote that healthy mindset from you
Okay, coach.
moving forward. But go into games as Crystal Maiden and just say, hey, this range creep's getting contested.
I
Big
will
camp's
show the
getting
next
pulled.
replay. The next replay, I will show how to basically lane efficiently. I will take care of my carry. I will take care of my core. I will try to understand these questions. Does my carry need me? Can they defend towers or not? Can they save themselves? Because if not, then I can obviously farm this mid and they don't need me. If they're right here, right now, do they want me here soaking XP? Do they want me to provide vision? What's my team trying to do? And it's all predicated on getting more farm efficiently more than my enemy team.
And that is perfect. And I will say that hopefully the goal would be is that next time around, maybe 30 to 45 minutes are spent on this period of the game, and then we spend 15 to 20 minutes on the next period of the game, and we can kind of expand you know, because obviously we got stuck kind of in the early game here. But I did feel like there was some relapsing, you know. I know that feeling where you get a lot of voices, man. Like even you saying like, you know, BSJ, I was told not to pull if the lane's near tower. You know, that's an example that's going to affect every single decision you make in every single game. Yeah. And I don't want, you know, those are the kind of things we got to, you know, boot them out of there. So
I needed this. I needed this.
I got
needed
you.
This. If we did this like a month or 2 months later, it'd be like, Eri, what happened to you?
Yeah.
What happened? Dude,
I'd find you at single digit MMR, man. I'm just kidding.
No, I get it. No, but you know, Coach V, it's great. Again, I mean, these sessions are always enjoyable, and for everyone watching, yes, we do plan to keep this going.
Yes.
I mean, it's just there's been obviously some breaks, but we do plan to have a season 2. We'll definitely have. I look forward to that, Coach. But for now, we're doing these review sessions. Once I hit Crusader, yo man, we're gonna do that season 2.
Smooth sailing from you, man, or smooth sailing from there. After that, we need the title to be getting out of Crusader. That's what we need to.
Yes, exactly.
Or climbing out of Crusader. You need some alliteration.
Climb through Crusader. Yeah, that kind of rolls off the tongue. We'll do that one. That could be the title for the next one. Coach, thank you. Appreciate the time. I hope you're well and safe over there. And till the next review session, I'll hopefully have better things to show you.
You too, bud. See you later.
All right, take care.